Um, my name is Allie W. I'm from Your Inspirations, and we are so excited to be here at Michael's Community Classroom with another great crochet class. Today we have this really great uh, Star of David crochet ornament. And our fantastic instructor today is Mary Beth Temple of Hooked for Life. And so if this is your first time with us, welcome. Just as a reminder, if you have any questions throughout today's class about, what we're teaching, what's going on, please feel free to drop those in the chat, and I'll be making sure that Mary Beth gets those questions. And I think that's it.
Okay,
we're ready to go.
My turn. Hi guys, welcome. If you've never been in a class with me here at Michael's before, we have a lot of fun, so relax. This is a very simple item to make. Now, when you download the pattern, and I'm sure that either Raina or Allie or both have given you a link in the chat for you to download the pattern. Everything in the pattern is white and iridescent. I have taken some liberties with colors because we have learned here with my white background, and if I use white yarn on the white background, you can't see what's going on. So this is the sample that I made. So we're going to make 2 different triangles. We're going to sew them together using beads, and then we're going to put a little ribbon at the top so it will hang. So let's go over to the tabletop and get started with the crochet part of this adventure. So here is our pattern. Now, earlier today, I made one of the 2 triangles so that I don't have to make 2 on camera, and this way I can sew it together on camera. But you're going to make 2. And once again, I'm using a different color for my second triangle. One is so that you can see it on camera. It'll be easier for you to see. I'm trying to get a little more light on the subject here, but also when we put our 2 triangles together to make our star, if you can see the triangles in 2 different colors, it's easier for you to see which way the triangles need to be laid out. So all we're going to do to get started, of course, is make a slip knot on our hook. I'm going over everything. I know this is listed as an intermediate class, but I have the time. So I'm really gonna sort of go slow through everything in case some adventurous beginners want to join us. So I'm going to take up a fold, maybe 4 to 6 inches in from the end. I'm going to twist it. I have my tail yarn, which is the cut end on top. I have my working yarn, which is the part of the yarn that's attached to the skein. That's underneath. I'm going to come from back to front. I'm going to grab that working yarn and pull it through the loop. And I'm going to give that tail yarn a little tug that's going to make my slip knot. I'm going to put that right on my hook. And that does not count as a chain. That's it's not like knitting where that first one counts. It's just going to hang out there. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, I have gone up a hook size because I tend to be a little tight. So the pattern calls for an H8 hook. I have an I because I also like to crochet relatively loosely when I'm on camera so that I'm not fussing and I can crochet easily and you can see what's going on. But you do want your fabric to be relatively stiff. If it's too floppy, it's not going to hold its shape. So you don't want, it's not like doing a garment where you want drape. You want it to be relatively tight so that the ornament will hold its shape. So the first thing we're going to do is chain 36. As a reminder, you're bringing your yarn from back to front over the hook and pull it through the existing loop. That's chain 1, 2, 3, etc. You want to chain a little bit loosely. You don't want the bottom of the triangle and the top of the triangle. Well, it's essentially an outline, and I have already lost count, so I'm in big trouble. You don't want the top and the bottom of the row of stitching to be different widths. And if you chain tightly, it might be a little too tight. So it's nice to have a relatively loose chain so that your little triangles are going to lay flat. I'm going to put a few more in here and then I'll count and see where I was. All right, let's see. How far did I get? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Here's 30. And here's 36. So next thing we're going to do was slip stitch in the first chain to form a ring. Now you want to be really careful that you don't twist that chain, because if you twist that chain, your triangle's not going to lay nicely. So this is the front of the chain, and we know it's the front because we see the little V's. So that's the front. Here's the back of the chain, which we recognize by the bumps. So we are going to crochet into the back or bump of the chain, again, for a nicer edge. Now, when I crochet, I work in the back or the bump all the time. If you are somebody who's been crocheting a long time, you prefer to work in the front, you may absolutely do that. But if you're just expanding your crochet skills, it's really cool to learn to do it in the back or the bump for a couple of reasons. One is the top and the bottom of your stitch more closely mirror if you work in the back or the bump. So here's one side, here's the other side. Now I know this is the top of the work just because I can see the stitch, but if you look at the bottom, it looks exactly like the top, which is really cool and does not happen if you work in the front V. The other thing is working in the back or the bump, it is a little bit more elastic. So we talked about crocheting loosely when we put that chain in, but you don't want the work to draw in because then the triangle's not going to lay flat. So the fact that it has a little more elasticity keeps the bottom of your stitches taking up the exact same width as the top of your stitches. So we are going to work in the back or the bump. Now, regardless of whether you're working in the front or the back, you want to make sure that you are not twisting that chain, because if you get a twist in that chain, it's not going to be easy to deal with later. So I'm making sure that my chain is nice and flat, and I'm making a circle, and I'm joining with a slip stitch in the back or bump of the first chain that I made. So here we have our untwisted ring. All right, moving on, because this is only a one round little adventure here. We're going to begin with a chain one, and the only reason that is there is to get our yarn from the bottom of the stitch to the height of where our stitches are going to be. So that does not count as a stitch. We're going to pretend it doesn't exist, but you do want to get that chain one in there just to get your hook in the right place. Now it says half double crochet in the same chain. So as a little refresher for the half double crochet, we're going to yarn over from back to front, insert our hook in that same chain, yarn over and draw up a loop, making sure that those loops get up on the fat part of the hook. Don't work so close to the throat that it's too tight. And I have 1, 2, 3 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and draw through all 3. So that was my first half double crochet, and it was in the same chain that I did my join. Now it says half double crochet in next 4 chain. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to make a corner. So to make that corner, it says half double crochet, picot, half double crochet, all in the next chain. So there's my next chain. There's my back or bump. pull up some more yarn here. So there's my half double crochet. Double crochet, and the double crochet and the half double are pretty similar. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook in the same stitch because we're putting that corner in, it's the same stitch. Yarn over, draw up a loop. We still have 3 loops on our hook like we did for the half double, but now we're going to yarn over, draw through 2, and yarn over, draw through 2 again. So there's my double. For my picot, I'm going to chain 2, 1, nice and loosely, 2, and I'm going to slip stitch in the first of those 2 chains that I made to give myself this nice little embellishment here on the tip. And then 1 more half double crochet in the same spot. So let me pull this up a little bit. So here's my corner. There's my half double crochet, my double, my picot, and another half double, and that's all in the same spot. Now we're going to just keep repeating those skills. So if there's something I did that you want to see again, we're about to do it again. And if you're following along at home, some of the classes I teach here, I don't feel like people should follow along at home because I have so many skills to teach. But this one, honestly, I feel like you could probably get this finished in the course of the hour. So now I'm going to half double crochet in each of the next 11 chains. How we doing, Allie? Is everybody keeping up?
Yes, there was one question to repeat from the slip stitch, but I think that this pattern kind of repeats itself.
It absolutely does.
Amazing.
My yarn does not want to cooperate today. So it's 8. 9. 10. 11. And I'm going to double count this just because, again, talking and crocheting is not always good for my math. So if you need to double count, remember that this half double crochet right there is part of your corner. So you've completed that, and then you're going to do 11 more. So I'm going to count the tops of my stitches. And I'm not going to count that one because that was part of the corner. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So for the person who asked about repeating from the slip stitch, after I made that slip stitch, I chained 1. I put a half double crochet in the exact same spot because that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And then I did a half double crochet in each of the next 4 and made the corner. And that's because we're putting the round join on the side. We don't want the round join to be exactly on a corner. We want it to be on one of the 3 equal sides because it's easier to hide the round join when we're putting in our beads. So now let's do that corner one more time. So we're in the next chain, we're going to half double crochet. Then double crochet, which remember starts the same way. There's my 3 loops on the hook. I'm going to draw through 2 twice. 1, 2. Now let's take a closer look at that picot. Chain 2 loosely. 1, 2, and we're going to slip stitch So there's my 2 chains right here. See my back bump? I'm going to slip stitch in the first of those 2. All it does is make this little detail. And then I'm putting 1 more half double crochet in that same chain. There's my corner. I'm going to do that 1 more time. I'm going to half double crochet in each of the next 11, make 1 more corner, and then there will be 6 chain remaining. And I'll half double crochet in each of those 6 because 6 and 5 is 11. So that gives me 3 equilateral sides to my triangle. I pulled that out of high school math. That's 5. I think this is the quietest I've ever been during one of these classes. 9. 10. 11. And once again, I'm going to double count just because I'm talking and looking and shooting and whatever. So this half belongs to the corner. I'm not going to count it. I'm going to count 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Look at that. Our last corner, because it's a triangle, so there's only 3 corners. Half double, double, picot, chain 2 loosely, slip stitch in the first of those 2 chains, half double in the same space, there's my little picot, and with any luck, and yes I do, I should have 6 left.
Question here from Vicky. Is there an easier way to get through the bump? Her yarn seems to split.
I would say bigger hook so it's a little looser, or chain a little looser. And again, if you're more used to working in the front and that's what you want to do, it's fine. It just honestly, the number of people, I mean, I learned to crochet several decades ago, and you know, nobody taught the back bump there, and I just think it makes life so much easier, particularly if you're going to move on and learn like broomstick or Tunisian or hairpin or something like that. Working in the bump makes a huge difference. So if you can't get in there, it could be just that your chain is too tight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then that last guy, it's going to be what you see it. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. It's way down here. And that last one is tight no matter how loose your chain is, to be honest, because it's where you joined. So that's my last half double crochet. And I'm going to join the round in the top of the first stitch. So again, I'm going to ignore that little chain 1. I'm pretending it doesn't exist. There's the top of my first stitch. I'm going to join with a slip stitch. And then you just need to cut a long enough tail that you can weave it in. Oh my goodness, I swear all my supplies are getting tangled up today. So there is my second triangle. And as I said, the round joint you can see is on the side. When we assemble our little guy, you shouldn't be able to see that. And I will be honest, I did not go crazy weaving in the ends. Obviously I wove them in and will do so again, but I didn't go crazy about worrying about knots or what have you, just because it's an ornament that's going to hang and be decorative. It's not something that is going to have a ton of wear. So I was more interested in burying the ends neatly than I was in making them super durable, because it's not, you know, you're not going to touch it. You're not going to wear it. So I just wove in my ends super quickly like that. Here's one. And I went the other way with the other one. You could also crochet over the tail if you wanted to at the very beginning. That first tail, if you just crocheted over it, that would probably be fine. But again, I was not trying to do that. I wanted you to be able to see the stitches. Now it tells you to block it by spraying it damp and pinning it out on a foam board. Make sure you use rust-proof pins. I like to use T-pins for that. You could also use your iron. However, if you use your iron, you don't want to put the iron on an acrylic yarn, because it we call it killing. It kills the fiber, and it's very sloppy at that point. Doesn't have any kind of stamina. You can melt it also if your iron's too hot. So if you want to do it with an iron, hold your iron, you know, 3-4 inches over it, hit it with a little bit of steam, pin it out, let it dry naturally. Don't put the iron on the piece. Or what I did with this guy, because I just finished him recently, I just put that under some books. I let it hang out under some books. I could, again, have done a better job with blocking, but I was rushing around a little bit this morning. So the next thing we're going to do is assemble our 2 triangles. Allie, do we have any crochet questions before we move on?
We do. Debbie was wanting to know if you could show how to do the invisible join.
I'm not sure what is being asked. I don't know what invisible join she's talking about.
Well, Debbie, if you can give us a little bit more, then we can certainly try and show you.
One last thing on this, for those of you that are slightly more experienced, this would also be, you could also do this with a foundation half double crochet instead of chaining at all, if you wanted to. But so let's talk. So we have our 2 triangles. Here's our 2 triangles, the one that we made earlier and this one that I made just now. So I'm going to hold one so that I have a straight edge going side to side from the top. And my other one, I'm going to orient it so the points are in a different direction, right? So I have my 6 points, and I'm going to take this guy and pop it under. And I'm going to take this guy and pop it over. So there are my 6 points. Let me do that one more time, because it's one of those, it's super easy to do once you see it. And until you see it, you're like, wait, I'm not sure how that happened. So here's my straight edge from side to side across the top. Here's my other triangle, and I have my points lined up with my sides and my sides lined up with my points. I'm going to take the top point and put it under. And on the other triangle, I'm going to take the bottom point and put it over. So here are my 6 triangle points. You can, if you want to, pin that with some straight pins. I, of course, left my straight pins in the other room, so I'm just going to wing it. But you can, you want to, if you're going to use pins, you want to pin it where they join. Because if you look at our original sample, we're going to sew it together simply by attaching beads. And the beads that we used at the beads that we used in the photograph in the picture that's on the pattern are white iridescent. So you just get a little glitter. Again, I used a darker color so you could see that they exist. Also, the pattern calls for 6mm beads. I'm not 100% sure these are 6mm beads, but they were there and they were pretty. So honestly, you could go as high as a pony bead. I think anything that you have or you find at Michael's that you want to use would be suitable. Whatever makes it look pretty in your eyes is close enough. So I'm going to knot the ends of my thread. And I always do this in my sewing classes here at Michael's. So let's do it in this class too. Now this is just a regular sewing needle and thread. If I was using teeny tiny beads, I would need a beading needle, but since I'm using something a little bit bigger, these are 610s, the ones that I had. And again, you're looking for a 6mm bead. A regular sewing needle is fine. And you want your thread to be whatever color your yarn is so that it disappears. So the easiest way to do this, I don't want to have to weave in an end and then sew the bead and weave in another end. So I have threaded my needle. I have folded my thread in half, so it's double. You can see I've got two strands there. So I'm going to put the cut end on my finger and wrap around. And then I just twist my fingers. And what's going to happen is those little cut ends are going to go inside that loop. I'm going to tighten that loop. And there is my knot. That is so much easier. I'll do it again. It's so much easier than trying to tie a bunch of overhand knots one on top of the other so that they match. Because if you're trying to tie an overhand knot and tie another one, they never end up in the same place. So this is a lot easier. So there's my cut end on my index finger and it's about halfway up. I'm going to wrap the thread around and then I'm going, whoops. And then I'm going to twist my fingers like playing the world's tiniest violin so that the cut ends go inside that loop and they'll go in more than once. Then I'm going to tighten up that loop. And there's my big old knot. So let's grab a bead. And I'm just gonna join this guy right here. Now, I do not want to come up from the back and pull that needle all the way through, because if I do that, that knot is not big enough to hold through the yarn. It'll pull right through the yarn. So I'm going to pull it up until it hangs out in the back, probably about an inch. Can you see it right there? I'm not pulling it all the way up. Now I'm going to go through I'm going to put my needle through my bead. And I'm going to go back. I'm going to go not in the exact same hole. Again, I don't want it to pull through the crochet. I want it to sit on the top. So I'm going over a strand. Now on the back, I'm going to take my needle and put it in this loop that is between the two strands that lead into the knot. And now I'm going to give it a tug. And doing that prevents that knot from pulling through. So there's my bead on the front. There's my knot on the back. Up to you again. I might, just in the interest of keeping things neat, I might come up from the back one more time. Go through the bead again. And remember, if you have teeny tiny beads, you might need a beading needle. Go back to the back. Of course, my thread tangled because I'm doing it on camera. There we go. And then to end it off, I'm just going to take a couple of quick stitches to hold it together. Would I be more worried if this was a garment was going to have a lot of wear? Absolutely, but it's not. So I'm just making enough of those little stitches so that it doesn't pull out. And I'm going to trim it close, but not exactly up because I don't want it to come undone. I'm going to trim it right there, maybe leave like a 1/16 of an inch. I will do that again, but do we have any questions? Allie?
Sorry about that. I think there's a couple of questions here about the beads and oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of the word. Could you use starch to keep the points flat and pointed?
I personally don't like starch on acrylic yarn, and this is done in a worsted weight, but I could also see doing these out of thread with a much smaller hook and maybe a little seed bead in the corner, and I would starch those, and I bet they would look phenomenal. I personally don't like starch on acrylic, but you could certainly give it a shot. Wonderful. And honestly, if I had wet blocked it, it would have laid flatter. It's just, I was rushing around as I so often am, and I did not do that step.
Richie would like to know if you could just connect the triangles without the beads.
Absolutely. Again, if both of your triangles are the same color, which they probably would be, I would still do it with sewing thread. I wouldn't want a big lumpy yarn join, if that makes sense. But if you got sewing thread that was the same color as the yarn, you could just do a couple of quick stitches in each of those 6 points and nobody would ever see it. I think that would work just fine.
Wonderful. And then, so Debbie actually, she came back with trying to explain a little bit more about the invisible join.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. So what she said is threading the top of the joining stitch and then threading back through the loop of the stitch.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, let me do one more bead and then we'll play with that.
Perfect.
Because that's not part of the class, but I'm sorry, Debbie, that I didn't understand before what you meant. It just, I'm old and slow today and it took me a minute. So let's sew one more bead on. And then, yeah, absolutely. I will show you how to do that. And then did I see, Allie, somebody asked to see the picot again. So I'll just grab a piece of crochet and we'll go over the crochet stuff. But let's get through the bead one more time so that people that just want to make this piece can live their lives and move on. So once again, we have our 2 cut strands of our thread. I'm going to hold it over my index finger about halfway up, make a little ring and twist. And all those little cut ends are going to go into that ring. And then I'm going to tighten it up. And honestly, that's how I do my thread knots all the time. And if you have too much thread coming out the end, like that's a little much, just trim it. But it's so much easier than trying to do 900 overhand knots. I promise you, they never line up. So once again, I'm coming up from the back. I am not going to pull it so the knot is all the way up against it. I'm going to leave myself about an inch. I'm going to thread my bead onto my needle. I'm going to go over 1 or 2 strands, not in the exact same place, and go through to the back. And I'm going to use the tip of the needle to split those 2 threads apart and go in between right under the knot. And give it a little tug. That means my knot's not going to pull out. That's going to keep it. Then if I wanted to, I could go back through the bead one more time. Back through to the back. And then a couple of catch stitches just to make sure nothing comes undone. And then trim it close, but not too close. So if you look at the one I did earlier, you'll see the 6 points where the beads go. So it's wherever the 2 triangles overlap. So there's 2 up here. There's 2 on the side, 1 by each of my thumbs. And then there's 2 down here on the bottom. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then just grab some ribbon, cut yourself 6 or 8 inches of ribbon. Again, I would have used white had I been able to find any. Pink is what I had, so pink is what we used. And you just put it in the space under that picot. If you use a thread or a more narrow ribbon, you could go right in the picot if you wanted to. But this was a little wide for that, so I didn't do that. But you could absolutely, if you had maybe some kind of glittery thread or you know, that Aunt Lydia's metallic. I hang a lot of Christmas ornaments with that, I have to tell you. But you could, if you wanted to. Here's the picot. Here's the hole in the picot. You could go right in there if you had something more narrow. And then just tie a little knot. You can either leave the knot up at the top or pull it down in the bottom so it hides behind your ornament and you just have your loop at the top. And there we are. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just crochet up a little sample real quick so we can talk about that invisible join and also do a few more picots. Does anybody have any additional questions about that ornament specifically before I start playing with other techniques? Okay, it's very quiet, so I'm assuming we're all good.
Leslie just wants to know if she could see the white star again. If you could just show her the white star again.
Absolutely, here it is. So there's the one triangle. You see it's laying on top and then it goes under. There's the second triangle, points at the top. And then the beads go wherever there is a join. So 1, 2, 3, 4 are the sides, 5, 6 is the bottom. And then there's our little ribbon. We have a little picot on each point. And again, if you had blocked this out, it would be a little straighter and the picot would probably stand up a little more aggressively. You could also, don't tell the design department I said this, you could also do a 3-chain picot instead of a 2-chain picot, where I chained 2 and did my slip stitch in the first chain. If you want that picot to be a little more visible, you could chain 3 and put a slip stitch in the first of those 3 chains, and that makes that picot stand out a little more. But again, giving this a tug, you can see its shape a little better. Yes, I do. I personally prefer a 3-stitch picot, but I also was not the designer of this piece. So I like to do what the designer tells me so I don't get in trouble.
Andy has a question here. After you do the first 11 DC, it then says twice. What does that mean? Do 11 more or do the 4 stitches in one?
No, you're only going back to, let me see how they wrote this. Okay, let's look at that on the pattern. You're doing what's in the brackets. So it's chain 1, half double crochet, same chain, half double crochet, next 4. Then there's a bracket, half double crochet, picot, half double crochet, and next chain. So there's a parentheses. The parentheses tells you that those instructions are all in the same stitch. Half double crochet, in next 11 chains, end of bracket twice. So you go back to the beginning of the bracket. So it's 4, corner 11. We're doing it again, corner 11, corner, and the last 6. That's just, it's just, you know, pattern reading conventions is all that is. Okay. Okay. Moving on. So yeah, I'm just going to go over a couple of questions that people asked only because we have so much time left. But you have seen everything that you need to see to make the Star of David ornament. So let's look at that picot. Let's do a 3-chain picot just for fun. So I'm going to go, my stitch before the picot for this pattern is a double crochet. I can go 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to the first chain that I made. Now, I know I've been harping on back bump, but honestly, for a picot, if you want to go in the front, I don't actually care. It's not going to make a big difference. Find the bump or that front V, whatever you want, and put a slip stitch right in there. So the thing that is the picot is this little bump right here. And the reason I like a 3-chain picot as opposed to a 2 is any odd number, one is going to point up and sort of be the center, and then the other ones are going to go on either side. So I think it looks pointier. But again, I was not the designer of this pattern, and I like to teach what the designer wrote. But since we're playing games, I like an odd number of chains in my picots personally. So you can do the 2-chain picot that's written, or the 3-chain picot that we just looked at. Let me do that one more time. And then I'm going to put a couple stitches on this and talk about Debbie's invisible join. Let me just do another double. So for my picot, chain 2 or 3, 1, 2, 3. Go back to the very first one, which is right up against that double. And do a slip stitch. You're going to insert your hook in the stitch, yarn over it, and draw it through everything. You're going to draw it through that chain stitch and also through the loop on your hook. And there is your picot. And then again, for the sake of the pattern, you would have done a half double crochet. Next. But I'm going to put just a couple more doubles on this so I can talk about that invisible join. Now this is really stump the band, Debbie. We're going to see if I remember how to do this. I think I do, but we're about to find out. I love it when you guys try and trick me when I'm live on national classroom time. Again, I'm just putting some doubles in here so I have something to join, and I can get my fingers in there. All my triangles that I already made are all joined already. I'd never be able to get them undone. Okay, here we go. For that invisible join, I try not to join in the top of a starting chain because it's a little lumpier. And for the sake of this particular ornament, you would not have been joining into a starting chain anyway, because the starting chain on this triangle is the chain 1 and it hides. It's not a thing. So I'm going to join into the first of the double crochets that I made. So I'm going to cut a tail and I'm going to leave a nice long tail because I want to make sure that I have plenty of room to work, and that also that I can have some left to weave in. So I'm going to ignore that chain and I'm going to join here. Okay, sorry. I'm with you now, Debbie. So you're going to pull the yarn through. So when I finished before, I tend to yarn over and pull through, which looks like a chain one. A lot of people, when they get to their last stitch, they just pull the cut end through, but I don't love that idea because it makes that last thing loopy. But for the sake of this invisible join, that's the way you want to go. Now you thread it. Now I'm with it. You make these adjacent, so they're right next to each other. So you're coming out of this stitch. Do you see that my yarn is coming out of that stitch? I'm going to go under both legs of the stitch that I'm joining to. And then I'm going to go back in the same space where that working yarn is coming out. And I'm going to give that a little tug. And there is your invisible join. And then you would just weave in the ends. But what it does is it gives you that additional, it makes the top look like the bottom and it makes the join look like the other stitches. Let me do that one more time, just to make sure that I said it correctly and didn't confuse anybody. So right, so I'm finishing my last stitch. And I'm going to cut the yarn, leaving a nice long tail, and I'm going to pull it straight up. I'm going to pull it all the way through. And I'm going to thread it onto my yarn needle. Orient my last stitch with this guy. Again, I'm skipping that chain 3 just because it makes it really lumpy. I'm going under 2 legs of that stitch and giving a little tug. And I'm going back down in the exact same hole where that yarn came out of in the first place. And I don't want to pull it super tight or make it super loose. You can see I want it to be the same gauge as the top of the stitches that surround it. And then I could just weave in this end. But the trick when you're weaving in the end is don't give it a big tug. You don't want it to be tight. Let's show that. If I pull it too tight, yeah, I guess it's not terrible, but in this case, because I skipped that beginning chain, I really kind of want that stitch to take up that space. I feel like if I had pulled that tight and let it recess, that those would be too close together. But you see, there it is. I hope, Debbie, I hope that's the one you wanted because that's the one that I remembered how to do. Allie, I feel like I know we went very fast today, but I feel like we've done everything we have to do. Do we have any more questions before we adjourn for the afternoon?
Andy just wants to know if you could show once more how you lay the triangles over one another.
Yes, and let's do it with the 2 colored ones, because I think when you have 2 of each color, or when you have 1 of each color, it's easier to see. Let me just cut them apart though. So give me 2 seconds. I'm going to cut the little beads off so I can do it for real. And there is a picture on the pattern. You can kind of get the idea of it from the picture, but I will say, even looking at the picture, honestly, it took me a minute to figure it out, which is why I wanted to do it here. All right. So you want to take either of the triangles, it doesn't matter because yours will be the same color, and lay them flat like this so that this one has a bar going from side to side. Then you want to take the other one, and instead of having a bar side to side, you want to point. So I have one on top of the other, right? So I'm going to take my top point of my top triangle and put it under and pull it up a little bit. And then I'm going to take my bottom point of my bottom triangle and put it over. And then bead, 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 bead. Or if you don't want to do the beads, then of course you could just join in those 6 spots. And then I would put my my little hanger do through the top. Did that do the job, I hope?
Yes.
Terrific.
Right. Awesome. Perfect. Well, I don't see any other questions coming through right now. Thank you everybody so much for joining us. Another really great class. Be sure to let us know if you make this project and tag us on social media. And definitely be sure to check out Michael's for other classes. We have a bunch of other great classes coming up over the next month as you get ready for the holiday season. We can't wait to see you all again and keep stitching with you all.
Bye.
Perfect.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.